Every pregnancy needs utmost care and attention. But certain pregnancies need a little extra attention. An Rh negative mother carrying an Rh positive baby is at increased risk of complications. BSV is at the forefront to ensure safe delivery in every Rh negative pregnancy.
Hello and welcome to the Outside View presented by Women's Quick Zone and brought to you by BSV, Puma, Food and Wellness, MRI Hospitals and NPL Sports Foundation. So we are here already into the semi-finals. Until the last league game, or probably until the last ball of the last league game, we were all unsure of the top four teams that we're going to get to see in this World Cup. Well, 23 days and 28 matches later, we are here for the first semi-final that is going to be played between Australia and West Indies. So to quickly preview that game for us, I have alongside me our experts, Britney and Julia. Welcome both of you. So it's been a phenomenal tournament so far. We've seen so many close matches. And coming to Britney first, what were your reactions, Britney, when you were watching that South Africa game? We saw the celebrations coming in from the West Indies team. They finally made it to the top four. They started the tournament very well with those two impressive wins. A little bit of hiccups there after that, but they finally made it and they probably deserve to be there.
I was happy that the team got another chance because in this World Cup, we all haven't seen the West Indies team that we know of. Yes, they won 3 games, but it wasn't 3 convincing games. I think this is a great opportunity to showcase what they are capable of, and why not against Australia.
Definitely. And coming to you, Julia, with the same. We were all having a close eye on that game, South Africa and India. South Africa were playing that game as if everything and every hopes of them were riding on that. And their victory meant that we are getting West Indies in the top 4. How do you look at that? How do you think, what do you make of West Indies' performances in the league match? And they're going to be a formidable side. We've seen them producing some impressive performances. Just a little bit of hiccups there as we saw.
Yeah, well, as Britt said, they've probably not played their best cricket, but I think pretty early on it was pretty close. I mean, they were looking really, really good and looked sharp and they looked confident, and then they just sort of fell away a fair bit. But fortunately picked up that one win against Bangladesh where they just fell over the line. But at the same time, that'll give them a bit of confidence. West Indies, I know Australia will be, they're sort of one of those teams you just don't know who's going to turn up. And I think, they're not going to be taking them easily at all. And they're just going to sort of, play them like they were playing in those first 2 games where the West Indies were fantastic, really played nicely as a team. Both bowling and batting units worked really well together. So, and I was pretty pumped to have them in there because I tipped them to be in the top 4. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yes, you're happy with that, okay. And then let's get to the head-to-head of Australia and West Indies to see how both the teams have fared when they've faced each other in the ODI format of the game. Of course, we know that Australia have had a very good outing even before they made it to this tournament. And then West Indies, of course, we can here see the head-to-head stats where in 14 matches they've played against each other. Australia has won 13, West Indies won. But we don't go by numbers. But if we have to go by numbers, then if you consider Australia's numbers, they entered this tournament with 33 wins out of 33 matches since the 2017 ODI World Cup. Probably is that also a pressure because you termed them as the favorites, but then you go there and win 7 of the 7 matches, Julia. How do you put Australia's performances in the league matches? They made so many changes in their side, but just managed to secure victory in all of it.
Yeah, I think it's been really good, their preparation, the way they've sort of been rotating players in and out without it really, destroying the integrity of the team and what they're trying to do with the program. Problem with, I think, last time we were in New Zealand in the World Cup in 2000, we won all the games and then lost the final. So I don't know if they'll. Hopefully, they've learned from what we did back then, and they seem to have with the way that they've been going about things. But again, when it comes to finals cricket, it's a completely different game. Everyone knows that they have to step up. There's completely different pressures. Australia's obviously trying to absorb those, and they'll really be talking down their chances here. They'll be wanting to be the favourites, but they won't want to talk about it, I would imagine, at all, because it can get quite nerve-wracking. Obviously, not having dropped a game yet, and knowing that you're going to come up against a team like the West Indies that can produce amazing games. So they'll be taking it pretty seriously.
Definitely. Coming to you, Brittany, with that, of course, so we saw Australia in a very good form, but Elise Perry wouldn't be playing this semi-final, and we saw in the league match when West Indies and Australia faced each other, she was there everywhere. She was the player of the match as well. Is that something already a positive for West Indies that they're going to take?
Yeah, I take a look at that because obviously, as you said, she was the player of the match when they last played in the group stage, and to have such a player like her to miss such a important game, because there's no final without passing the semi-final. No, West Indies will be happy, but I'm not happy the fact that a player is injured, because no one would like to wish that on any player. But they will go into the game with a little more positive, because if you looked at if probably Terry did not score that amount of runs in that first game, then probably things might have swing to West Indies way.
Okay, now let's just discuss about the key players, the key moments, and the performances of both Australia and West Indies in the league stage, in the group stage that we've witnessed. So, coming to you, Brittany, with that, of course, first, if you have to talk about West Indies, who do you think who has impressed you the most? We, of course, talk about Hayley Matthews. We talk about her with the ball, with the bat as well. So, probably heading into the game against Australia as well, you look at her as a key player, or any other player that you think is going to make a greater impact, because this is something that is a confidence booster for West Indies, making it to the semis, and they wouldn't want to, give anything less than 100% there.
My key player for this match is no other than skipper Stefani Taylor. I think that this is the occasion for her to to step up and come and show for the team. Last time they played Australia, she scored 50 runs. But yeah, I really, really hope that she comes with the ball this time. She's very, very effective with those I would say off break, but those skinny those skinny spinners, because she's not the type to get the ball to spin as much. But yes, Stephanie Taylor.
Stefani Taylor, she picks to be someone to watch out for in this match. And if I have to come to you, Julia, with who do you think is going to, who has impressed you the most from West Indies first? And this is a semi-final game, and once again, there are a lot of names there. There's Deandra Doughton, there's Hayley Matthews. Who do you think is going to make a big impact in these semi-finals? And who has impressed you the most in the matches that they've played?
Well, obviously, Hayley's been outstanding pretty much through this whole tournament with bat, ball, and in the field. She's been really, really good. I think Stefani's had her moments. She's a great captain, but I just think as well, and she really had that hard-fought 50 that she got recently, and I think that's what we need to see from Stefani a little bit more, just to keep dragging her team, towards that finishing line and making sure that they're putting in these big performances. So I agree with Brett. I think Stefani needs to have a big game, and whether that's with bat and ball, she hasn't done a lot with the ball yet. Helped them get through in one of the games where she bowled pretty well against Bangladesh, but yeah, I think she's got a lot of respect. Obviously, has played a fair bit in Australia, so we'll know the Australians pretty well, and there's certainly a good respect from the Australians to Stefani Taylor as well.
And do you see her opening the bowling, Brittany? Because in the last match, we saw that Shamelia Connor, Shirelle Henry, they opened the bowling, and they did a pretty good job in their opening spell against South Africa. The match was called off, but that was a good effort from both the opening bowlers. But do you see Hayley Matthews coming in to open, or it depends on the match situation? How do you see that happening against Australia?
I mean, it's not a bad idea for Hayley to open, because obviously one of Australia's strength is their top order, but I highly doubt that she will open the bowling. I think I do think she will come in early, probably about the eighth, ninth over. I think she will come in early, but I don't think she'll open the bowling for West Indies.
Okay, then top order, as you mentioned, Australia's top order, and we've been talking about the batters. Almost all the batters until 4-5, they have had at least a half century in this tournament. We know that Elisa Healy, Rachel Haynes at the top there. Meg Lannon has been in terrific form. So it's a formidable batting unit. And what should be the plans of the West Indies bowlers to stop them, Julia? Because all of them have looked in good form. And if you talk about the batters down the order as well, they have a lot of depth. Ashley Gardner out there, Talia Magra, everybody has that part to go there and get those quick runs for the side.
Yeah, I think the key with majority of them is they love width, and as soon as they've got some width, they're really swinging hard. They like to get their innings off to a great start. The West Indies have been pretty good in their strike rates in the first power play, as have Australia. But from then on, Australia seemed to just be maybe a little more cautious in that opening power play, so that they can continue to accelerate through the entire innings and maintain wickets. Where I think there's a real reliance in the West Indies top order to make sure that they're going hard early. But unfortunately, they seem to also be losing a few wickets. So to me, I think it's going to be a battle of the batters. I think in both these teams, I think the batters for both sides are very, very strong, and I think it's about who's going to cave first in the scoring department here. Where the bowlers are pretty tight. I just think a nice tight line on these bowlers. Don't be too predictable, but I think generally you keep it tight. That's going to keep the batters quiet, and you're actually going to make them have to do something different. I think in the past, the West Indies have maybe been a little wide or short with their bowling and length and line, and we see that with Shemaine Campbell's only got 3 dismissals so far as a wicketkeeper, and generally that's a pretty good indication that you're not bowling straight enough. So to me, I think they just need to keep nice and tight in their lines, be nice and simple, but it's the batting that's going to be the fireworks, I think.
Yeah, nice and tight there should be from the West Indies bowlers. But of course, if we talk about the Australian bowlers out there, we've seen that Jess Johnson did not play a game, and then you make a lot of changes there in their bowling. Megan Shute has been economical for the side. Alana King has also been a side. But if we talk about the bowling unit, the spinners out there, and the struggle of the West Indies batters against the spinners. We've seen that in the tournament so far, they've lost their wickets mostly to spinners. What should be the plan? Because you have Alana King there, you have Jess Johnson there. What should be the plan, Britney?
Yeah, well, the plan for mine would be, and I think it's a little radical because I can't see Australia doing it, but I wouldn't bring in Sutherland. I feel that they're going to bring in Annabelle Sutherland for Lise Perry, but I'd bring in Amanda Jade Wellington. So I just think it'd be great to have an extra spinner in there. And then they've got Gardner as well, who's been bowling very, very well as well. So to me, I think just having that extra spinner would be just a pretty handy against the West Indies attack. And we know how accurate that Amanda Jade Wellington can be as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
I had to agree with Julia there. That was my toss-up between Wellington and Salah, because as she rightfully said, West Indies has been struggling against spin. So why not train another spinner there? Because you have a lot of other capable pace bowlers there. I won't tell her my 11 just yet, but I was hoping that Wellington be in the 11 also.
But you don't have to wait a lot. You're playing 11. You're just getting into that segment only. So, okay, let's know what are the playing 11s for Australia and West Indies from our experts out there. And let's get to Julia first. Julia, what you think is going to be the playing 11 of Australia?
Well, as I just mentioned, I think it comes down to the fact of whether they need another pace bowler, because if they go with Wellington, they'll have the 4 spinners with Jess Johnson, Gardner, King, and Wellington, and therefore they've got McGrath and Shute and Brown, which are going to be their 3 pace off options. But to me, I just think against a team like the West Indies, I would want to take the pace off a little bit and maybe just bowl that extra spinner and just see how you go and leave out Sutherland for the moment. So you just got the 3 pace bowlers, but I think I think that'll be enough. It's a little bit risky because I know that Matthew Mott does like to have a slightly extended batting order, and he'll be a bit nervous leaving out someone like Sutherland when you've lost Elise Perry. But we did see them cope pretty well with Beth Mooney shuffling up the order to 4, and she's been on fire as well for Australia. So it's probably a fraction risky, but at the same time, I think it's tactically a good matchup for Australia versus West Indies.
Tactically a good matchup. And then it's time for Britney now to tell us what is the playing 11 that we're going to probably get to witness from the West Indies.
Well, my liver got shaked up because of the news of Matthew Thatcher having COVID. I've been begging for her to be in.
We would miss the phone call celebrations there.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I know it's going to be a big loss for West Indies because I believe she would have been a very important player in this 11. But for me, I have Dutton, Matthews, I have Knight, Taylor, Campbell, Nation, Henry, Ramak, Connell, Allen, and Selman. I think I'll go for probably a little more experience in the Seamus lineup in terms of Allen and Selman, because Allen wasn't in my 11, but because Fletcher is now out, she's in.
Okay, then it will be interesting to see how the entire battle turns out tomorrow. We, of course, know that Australia entered this tournament as favorites, and West Indies, we termed them as the surprise package, and in a surprising way, they have entered the top 4 as well. So they would be wanting to make most of the opportunity that they get. Of course, Elise Perry wouldn't play the game as she is not completely recovered from her injury, and Effie Fletcher has tested positive, and she would be missing this encounter as well. But we are all excited to see how this is going to unfold because we're going to get our first finalists of what has been a incredible World Cup so far. So of course we'll join you for the pre, mid, and post shows of Australia versus West Indies. Until then, you stay tuned to Women's Quick Zone for all the updates on women's cricket.